that WeWork is a really interesting business, but that business had been built many times before, and it's called a REIT. And I think what Adam was able to arbitrage was a period of time where he pitched a non-real estate investor a technology company that was really just a real estate investment trust. And that's why he was able to get these incredibly heady valuations. I think the peak valuation of WeWork was like $45 or $50 billion. But what happened, which is that when WeWork ultimately went public, the collective intelligence of the public markets imposed a REIT-based valuation model on WeWork, and it is now a $3.6 billion public company. And I don't think you can dunk on Adam for that. It's hard to build any kind of company, let alone a $3.6 billion company, and he was instrumental in that, so he should get some amount of credit. But the reality was that he was pitching people that didn't want to hear about a business that was a real estate investment trust. They wanted to hear about some technology and all of these other things, but ultimately when you stripped it away, it was a REIT. Now you started it again, and from the outside in, not knowing anything, because we don't know anything, what it looks like is the beginnings of another REIT, except focused on residential, right? So when you buy hundreds or thousands of apartments. But again,
same pig, different lipstick.
The issue at hand, though, is that, again, he has found a technology investor to buy a technology story. And again, time will tell whether there's a technology business here. But if it ultimately is an amalgamation of a bunch of apartments with some sort of, interconnected technology that helps enable a better community or what have you, those kinds of REITs have also been built before. And REITs are valued in a very structured way on this thing called FFO, funds from operations. And you know what the upper bound of valuation is, which is if you go and look in the stock market, the most valuable REIT in the world is a company called Prologis. They have about 1 billion square feet under management. They're about a $100 billion company. WeWork has about 45 million square feet under management. They're a $3.6 billion company. So if you just interpolate from those two data points, on the residential side, Adam's going to have to buy, if you think an average apartment is 1,500 square feet, he has to buy, 665,000 more apartments in order for that to be Prologis scale. I don't know, to invest at $1 billion valuation or 1.5 or 2 or whatever the number turns out to be, makes sense if you think the upper bound is unlimited. But if you think the upper bound is 3 or 4 billion, the only reason to do it, by the way, it still makes sense for Andreessen to do it. And this is why I think people get tilted. Because now this comes to my second point, which is that what Adam Neumann is able to take advantage of is a very obvious, powerful understanding of the venture capital business model that other founders don't, especially the ones that dunk on him. And let me just explain this. We talked about this last week. The only mistake I think that SoftBank really made was a velocity of money mistake, which is not setting the investment cycle of their vision fund to be 10 years instead of 5. Well, every other fund has a 5-year investment cycle too, including AHs. And so when you have tens of billions of dollars under management, guys, guess what? They have the same problem SoftBank did, except with just a different quantum of capital. They want velocity of money. And so if a founder comes and asks for $350 million, it actually in a perverse way makes their life easier. Because now that's saying yes once versus saying 5 or 6 times to people asking for $50 million. Or heaven forbid, 350 times for people asking for $1 million.
And so if you're in that seat, Chamath, if you're in the investor seat, are you putting all that capital once with the one guy who's managed that money before? Or do you want to find the guy who hasn't or the gal who hasn't?
You have to understand the Andreessen business model, Andreessen Horowitz business model is to become Blackstone, but for technology.
They have like 30 billion AUM now, right?
Right, which is still, a drop in the bucket.
Billion, something like that. Yeah.
So if you look at Blackstone, right?
$1 trillion.
Blackstone is $100+ billion market cap company, right? Built on 3 pillars: credit, private equity, and real estate. You can make the argument that technology is as important as those 3 categories. And so, I think it's pretty obvious that Andreessen is trying to build a publicly ownable security that represents all things in technology. So again, I don't think that they're necessarily out to generate massive returns for LPs. They want to become a credible, reliable institution to absorb hundreds of billions of dollars.
And so ultimately the objective, you think, is to index
to monetize
technology.
Their ultimate goal is for Andreessen and Horowitz to monetize the equity of Andreessen Horowitz.
Of the management company.
Yeah, that's the goal. And that's a by the way, that's a laudable goal. It's really hard to build a business. They've built an incredible business, and then they should get credit for that.